Episode 6 of the Northeast Corner.
Episode 6.
We're getting quite good at this consistency shenanigans, my friend.
We are. We're back again.
How's the week been?
Been good, working a lot as always, and going mad trying to get a list.
Yeah, yeah, for
For you.
yes, for the topic that we're going to cover. Yeah, the week's been pretty brutal for myself as well. Like, we did the 2 podcasts last Monday, and then I had 3 guests. 2 actually were in studio. It turned out they were both in Losses, so that was ideal. They were all meant to be via Zoom, and one via Zoom, so look forward to all that. I edited them all as well, so it got a bit kind of taxing of a marathon of... Well, technically it's 6 now in 7 days, but it was like 5 in
That's a lot.
5 days.
It's a lot of content that's just been busted out, people.
So,
a lot of content.
Yeah. Hope we can get some appreciation on that.
Without a doubt.
We're grinding out here. Anyway, what are we talking about today?
Well, this topic we came about as a group discussion actually in here in the studio, didn't we? Mm-hmm. We decided to actually talk about films. Now, this is all our own personal preference. This is none of us looking at who rates what film better. This is our own preference. So we've decided to each come up with a list of our 10 favorites, which we're going to compare, debate about, probably argue about as well, until we have just a finished 10. So there won't be 20, there will only be 10, and we'll see where we're at.
I've just realised as well that with the absence of podcast, Paul, we are going to have to make a decision now. So this could get very interesting very quickly. But let's start by it's the top 10 all-time favourite movies, like we said, from our point of view. So it is subjective. It's not an official list. Obviously, people can comment and stuff like that if they think we're out of our minds and whatever, where we've got stuff placed. But let's get to reading the lists. Do you want to read yours first, or shall I?
I'll go with my one first.
Okay.
So my list is in no particular order. I've just written down, like I say, top 10 favourite films.
Okay.
Now, remember, people, this has been, a week. And it took until earlier on today to get it all done. So, first one on my list is Human Traffic. Second one, Alita Battle Angel. Third one, Bunraku. Fourth one, Tropic Thunder. Fifth one, Pulp Fiction. Sixth one, iRobot. Seventh, Interstellar. Eighth, Venom. 9, Fight Club. And 10th, Up in Smoke, Cheech and Chong.
Ooh, there's some that you've mentioned there that I'm like, damn, why do I not think about that? Anyway, right, I shall read. I've actually got mine in said order. Let me just bring my notes up. John is kindly going to write these down because I've been, done just a little bit and done it on my phone rather than actually write it down myself. So, number 10 is Rush Hour.
That myself.
Number 9 is Donnie Brasco. Mm-hmm. Number 8, The Shawshank Redemption. Number 7, Trainspotting. Number 6, The Departed. I feel like we're having a game of bingo right now, aren't we? Number 5, Forrest Gump. Number 4, Saving Private Ryan. There's no vanity behind that. I didn't just put it in because my name's mentioned in it.
Yeah, of course there is.
Allegedly. Number 3, The Dark Knight. Number 2, Goodfellas. And number 1, American History X. So we have none the same, but from the 2 lists that we've just read off there, we actually have quite a lot of similar actors in said films and that. So at least there is going to be a common theme of we can appreciate the other one's list, even though we're going to argue our case for said movies.
Yeah.
So we're basically going to have a make our case, talk about the film, what it's about and that, because obviously there might be some on the other one's list that maybe we haven't watched or whatnot. And then we're going to come, not so much a debate, but, one of us is going to have to convince the other that they should concede this position for said film. So let's get right into it. Number 10, you know what my number 10 is? Rush Hour.
Yeah.
What card are you playing here?
To go up against Rush Hour, I'll probably throw in Tropic Thunder.
Okay. So I've seen Tropic Thunder, and I really do like. That was one of the ones I was like, damn it! Like, so tell us a bit about what Tropic Thunder is about. I obviously know, but some people that watch this might not know.
So, Tropic Thunder is obviously about a bunch of actors believing that they're going on a film set when what actually happens is they're actually dropped in the middle of a live war
conflict.
zone. Yeah. Or conflict. Sorry. Yeah. And a lot of strange and funny instances kind of lead from that. Jack Black has one of the starring roles as a bit of a clucker, shall we say.
I've actually seen an interview with Jack Black, right? That that scene in Tropic Thunder when he's on the water buffalo. They're trying to convince the cartel and that he's a prisoner and that.
Yeah.
Apparently that water buffalo was actually pregnant at the time, so it kept throwing him off.
Oh right, I didn't know.
Yeah.
That.
So a little fun fact, random fact.
I thought you were gonna say
something more interesting.
Well, I thought you were gonna say I can't remember what's his name now. The guy from Night in the Museum.
Oh, Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller, yeah, good old Ben Stiller. I thought you were gonna say something. Yeah, he actually killed that panda. I thought it was gonna be something a bit brutal like that. I was gonna be like, oh my god, here we go. So what about obviously for those who everyone's seen Rush Hour.
Yeah,
I'm positive everyone's seen Rush Hour.
Before we just talk about Rush Hour, with Tropic Thunder, my favorite scene from that film, and probably my favorite character, is Tom Cruise's character. And my favorite scene is when he starts playing Flow Rider and trying to convince Matthew McConaughey to just abandon Ben Stiller by bribing him with a load of money and a G5. And it's the bit where like he's done all the dance and that Bill Hader's in the background kind of bopping up and down, and it gets to the bit where it kind of closes in on shot and it's McConaughey, who I think's the man, and Tom Cruise's character, and it's just McConaughey going, a G5 airplane. And then it's like
a G5 airplane.
And then it's just Tom Cruise's one going, yes, and lots of money. Play. And then he starts playing Flow Rider and all the dancing starts. That's one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in my life, man.
Tropic Thunder, it was a great film. It was out there. And I would say definitely a very strong contender for this round.
So I'm going to make my case for Rush Hour. and then
it sounds defeated already, people.
So Rush Hour, which is, I wouldn't say it's a franchise, but there's a trilogy, right? But I've went for the first one in particular because I think it is the best out of the three. I enjoy all three, but I think it is the best out of.
As I always say, original is best.
And so basically, it's I guess a detective duo that kind of come by circumstance. So I believe it's a Chinese delegate. His daughter gets kidnapped by a mob or something in America, and Jackie Chan comes over as the top police officer from China, Shanghai.
I think it was Shanghai.
Yeah. And Chris Tucker, who's one of my favorite comic actors of all time, is a Detective Carter. And the film kind of opens up with Jackie Chan, because Jackie Chan's awesome, doing all stunts and
all his
martial
own
arts and all that. And then it comes to the comedic side. This is why I think it's got a great balance to it, right? Because there is like an action side to it with like Jackie Chan and all the moves, and then just a really hilarious comedy side with Chris Tucker.
Who tries?
Like, literally the whole three films are like of him chasing Jackie Chan's character around Lee, saying that, going Lee, you know what I mean?
Yo Lee.
Yeah. So Chris Tucker, he's at like this kind of bust, and it goes sideways, and this is one of my favorite scenes from films of all time. Is when the guy gets away in the car. He's got C4 in the trunk, and Chris Tucker's like like pursuing and shooting the gun at the car, and the guy jumps out, and then he blows the car up because he hits the petrol tank or something. Yeah. And he does the. Do you remember that dance that he does? Like he just like shouts, yeah, and then he starts doing like the whole kind of bobbing and weaving with it.
He likes to do it when he's directing traffic as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's in the third one. Isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, you know what? We went over a brief summary of them, and I think in a way, I wouldn't say they're similar films, but they're both they're both comedy orientated, right?
Yeah, definitely, and there's action involved as well. I mean, in Tropic Thunder, I would say Tropic Thunder's got the more brutal side of comedy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got Robert Downey Jr. doing
his role.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's out there. That is out there. But you know what? He played a good part.
Yeah, well, you know, I do think Tropic Thunder is a very unique film. And
Rush Hour was good. It was. I know Rush Hour was good, and this is irritating.
Yeah, I know, right? Like,
already,
like part 2 for the top 20 of all time. Yeah. But yeah, I am going to concede this one to you because I did enjoy Tropic Thunder. So that's 1-0 to John, which is not a great start for my side of things, but.
Tropic, bring the thunder. Right, so number 9. So you put up Rush Hour. God, I mean.
No, wait, number 9.
No, for number 10 you put up Rush Hour.
Yeah, for number 10, but number 9 now.
So what, we're gonna do Donnie Brasco?
Mm-hmm.
See, Donnie Brasco's a film I've not actually watched. It's got Johnny Depp in it.
Yes.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I know it's got Johnny Depp in it. I may have seen it, but I don't think I've enjoyed it enough to retain it.
I'm still going to make my case for it.
Oh, so definitely, without a doubt.
I can maybe persuade you. So what?
We'll see.
It's like a game of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. This, right? It's like what you're going to combat it with.
What you got? I'll put up. Oh, flame now. See, this is difficult because I don't know who Donnie Brasco's about, and I'm looking at the other ones on the list, and I'm like, oh. I'm going to put up Bunraku because I know fine well that you've definitely not seen
that. No, I've definitely not seen it. So this is going to be more in-depth, right? Because the first 2 we've both seen, and we can kind of give our thoughts briefly on that, whereas this we're actually going to have to explain to the other one what is said about. So who wants to go first out of this?
I'll let you go first on this one.
Okay, so Donnie Brasco is a film starring Johnny Depp and Al Pacino. And it's based on a true story of an FBI agent that went undercover in the mob and I think got the most criminal convictions in history of investigating the mob. And that was one of the first undercover operations in U.S. I don't want to say law enforcement, but you know what I mean, like intelligence services in history, right? I believe he was undercover for 10 years. So I actually read the book about this before I actually watched the film. The film's been out for ages. It was like 1997 it came out, but I read the book from James. Is it James Pistone? Or I could be saying his name wrong there. Jamie Pistone or something, which was his real name.
So Donnie Brasco was his.
Donnie Brasco was like an alias of his undercover name and whatnot, and that's what the mob knew him as. Johnny Depp's great in this film. Every time you hear about Johnny Depp, right, they always go straight to Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, I think he's a lot
more than just Captain Jack Sparrow. Yeah,
I would say this is probably one of his best performances I've ever seen him in. And obviously, like there's many other things you bring up, like Pirates of the Caribbean, Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But this stands out to me because it's very. In those other films, there's a.
He does play a strong part. I know what you mean. He's very dominating when he's on screen. You know it's Johnny Depp, but he plays a character. He does play a character very well. So that's why I'm getting a bit worried about this already. Yeah, I'm worried about losing this one maybe because I know Johnny Depp is a good actor.
But with Pirates of the Caribbean and Edward Scissorhands, he's kind of, he's playing not an extreme character but an eccentric character in both films. Whereas this is very cold and very serious, and there's a lot of strain that you can sense through the film. And the soundtrack actually for it is amazing. Like it sets the tone really well. So it's all about his like kind of journey of getting into the mob, doing things with him. And he actually starts to become one of them from basically living that life, because he's away from his family. He had a wife and kids, or he has a wife and kids, sorry. And, you know, he's barely at home. He barely makes it home for Christmas and that, because he is leading this double life of, you know, if he's not with the people in the organization, he's having to report to his handlers and report all the evidence and so on and so forth.
It's probably not as quick as easy as what you'd assume. So
no, for sure. I believe there were actually, in reality, it said at the end of the film, but I actually read it in the book as well, that after the FBI had, you know, prosecuted everyone and so on, there was a $500,000 bounty on his head for, I think it was whenever the book got released, so probably the 90s or the 80s at some point. It was still active to that day, because he had convinced them like that much that when the FBI had actually pulled him out, because they pulled him out because he wasn't reporting to them in the end, because there's a famous scene in the film where they're about to, in mob terms, whack someone on a boat, and then the lights come on and the FBI swarm and arrest them both.
Oh,
It's obviously they kind of
have to like a sting operation.
Yeah, to kind of do that, they have to arrest the agent, because it obviously keeps the cover alive and that. And then there's a scene where the FBI go around to the bar, the local bar that he's met all these people at throughout the film, and show them like pictures of him being an FBI agent and who this really is and that, and they don't believe it. Like they actually can't. Like they actually believe that the FBI are pulling their leg to try and, you know, pressure them. Like they actually
make them flip on.
Yeah,
them.
like they don't. I don't believe they ever bought it until obviously the prosecutions and he appeared and testified in court and stuff, and then you kind of have to believe it at that point.
Well, yeah, you've got no choice then. It's right in front of your face.
But my favourite scene in the entire film is when he comes home for a night to, I think, get some sort of money or something that he's hidden up the loft. I'm not sure if this happened in reality. This could just be a bit of Hollywood. But his wife catches him, and obviously she's not seen him for months on end, and she's complaining in that, and there's a really tense kind of argument that they have, and I think he strikes her, and it's like a really shocking moment in the film. And she says to him, "You're becoming one of them." And then it's like a very quiet, iconic scene where Johnny Depp's kind of staring into the abyss, and he kind of turns around to his wife, and in the film, and says, "I'm not becoming one of them." I can't remember the character's name, but he says his wife's name. "I'm not becoming one of them. I am one of them." And then the next part's where he goes to do that job, and then it all comes out, and then I think. In the film, Al Pacino's character...
It's got Al Pacino as well?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, me. So all-star cast.
It suggests at the end of the film that he gets taken out for vouching for Donnie Brasco. But that's just for the film. In the book, I believe it was Sonny Black, who's also a character in said film. He was the one that actually got taken out for vouching for him. And Lefty, Al Pacino's character, ends up in jail in reality. But in the film... because they focus so much around Donnie Brasco and Lefty's relationship, which was a real thing. They were the closest in that group. They suggest that Al Pacino's character gets taken out because there's a scene, one of the last scenes in the film, or maybe even the last scene, is Al Pacino's character in his home, and he says, "I've got to go do something for business." And at the end, before he leaves the door, he takes all of his personal possessions off, like rings and his wallet and stuff, and leaves it on the counter, and then leaves, which suggesting that he knows that the end is near for vouching for a fed, as they would call it. So yeah, and then the eerie music starts playing in that, and it's a really powerful film, and especially having read the book as well and seeing it got over 200 convictions, out of the mob that was pretty rampant in America at the time and whatnot.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a strong base. You've got a strong argument. I'm already on the fence, people, but I'm going to come out swinging.
Yeah, come on, make your case. Convince me, man.
So, Bunraku is a very, very peculiar film. Not that it's like, I wouldn't say it's like a weird film. Like, it's not about anything dodgy or anything like that. But the way that it's kind of shot, it makes it feel almost like a comic book.
Right.
There are scenes in it where you're like, this. It feels almost like it could be straight out of a comic book.
Is this an anime film?
No, it's not. This is live action. It's got quite an all-star cast. It's got Ron Perlman. It's got Joshua
Harnett.
That's the one. It's got Woody Harrelson.
Love Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. But his part in this film is actually quite strange. He plays a bartender. Well, basically, the story of this one is about two heroes. They come from very different backgrounds. They both have an issue within the city.
Right.
And the city is controlled by this character called the Woodsman, who is Ron Perlman. Now, he's the big bad guy. He controls everything. He controls the Redcoats, which is the strongest faction, which basically run the whole main city and all the other little surrounding towns.
So it's kind of like a bit of a dystopian kind of
environment.
Yeah,
exactly. You're not you don't know that it's Earth. You can guess it's Earth because it's humans. They've got cars. It's all that kind of. But when you look at it, it's also kind of futuristic. Mm. So, and it's got sci-fi kind of elements to it with, like I say, certain sceneries. It's very artistic is a word. So it is very eye-catching. And when you're watching it, you do get quite lost. Kevin McKidd's another one that's in it.
Yeah, famous guy.
From Scotland.
Well, I say famous guy. Incredible famous actor from Elgin.
Scotland!
Now living in Los Angeles, though, so he's doing well for himself.
He knows where he came from.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's these two heroes are based... Well, one of the actors I've left out is... I'm not 100% sure on how you pronounce his name. Obviously a martial arts expert. He comes dressed in like a black robe. He looks very samurai is how I would explain him. He's got like kind of long hair. He carries a sword. I'm pretty sure his name is either Gang or Gang. It's one of them, or I might be pronouncing it wrong, but it's one of them. So the heroes are based on him and Joshua Harnett. So that's who the two heroes are based on, and it's basically how they can help each other overthrow the Woodsman.
Right.
And like I say, so his strong faction, the Redcoats, they basically go around and destroy the city, destroy families. They've killed Joshua Harnett's family.
So it's a dictatorship at this point.
It is. Yeah. That's how it is ruled. It is. You do what the Woodsman says, otherwise the Redcoats come round. I mean, they come round and extort people, which is where Gang comes in because he's at his family's restaurant. Redcoats come in, offend his family, start stealing food, and then Gang basically... I can't even say he like proper dishes out an ass whooping because he doesn't. He just kind of uses self-defense more than anything else. And then he does do one kind of move where you're like, you did just destroy a table for the sake of it then. That was a bit like, come on. Like, really?
Dramatic effect, man.
Yeah, that was it though. It was, but I think that's the way it's shot. It is just like that was purely just for dramatic effect. That is what that scene is all about. I know, like I say, yeah. So his uncle's food place is totally destroyed. Family business gone down the drain. But he's also there to take on the Woodsman to basically free his people and reclaim honor to his family and so on and so forth. So him and Josh, they have this. They basically have like a co-partnership, but they also have a fallout before this kind of blossoms. So after this has happened to them on two separate scenes, because they've not met each other at this point, they meet in the bar, which is where Woody Harrelson comes into it.
Right.
And he's the one who basically explains to you what is happening in this film with a pop-up book.
Oh.
So he sits there, he goes, I like art. And he's like, what are you doing? He's like, art comes in many forms. And he starts opening up this book and these pop-ups come up. And this is where he starts telling you there's two heroes. And then they come here to defeat the evil, blah, blah, blah. But that it's based on the Woodsman. Because otherwise, like I say, I struggle trying to explain a film. But you can imagine trying to watch this film, because I've broken it down almost as it falls. And you can imagine watching it up until this point thinking, I have no idea what is going on. I was like, I love like how nice it looks and some of the little quirky kind of narrating that happens. Like narration that happens. All of a sudden, like the Redcoats walk into a building with no chime or anything, but it goes, bing bong, Redcoats. And you're like, what?
It must be quite a powerful thing that it can keep people hooked without necessarily being able to follow the story up until that point. Yeah. I would imagine we're quite deep into the film.
Yeah, you are. Because when they become like a co-partnership, like I say, they become a kind of co-partnership because they beat the crap out of each other. And Woody Harrelson's the judge, and he sits there and he's like smoking a cigar. It starts to rain. He busts out a little pretty umbrella. Like, I'm pretty sure it's pink, and he's just sitting there just watching them actually beat the crap out of each other. You know, Ging's doing his whole martial arts, battering him. Joshua's a bit of a boxer, so he's kind of like bobbing and weaving and whacking him. And it's a good fight scene. It is a really good fight scene, and like the scenery for that once again is beautiful because it's almost like they're suspended up in some kind of really run-down warehouse with multiple floors. But yet the floor they're on, you can see through the slats, so you know they're suspended high. But yet the floor they're on is all mucky and dirt. And it's like actual mud, and I'm like, how? Do you know what I mean? I know there's difference in landscapes. I understand that, but when it's portrayed like they're almost in a multi-story kind of barn, really rickety-looking barn, and then all of a sudden one of the top floors that they're on is just earth. I am a little bit confused by it, but
plays with your mind a bit.
Yeah, it does. But I think once again, that's the whole point of this kind of film. That's why it's shot the way it's shot. That's why certain colors in that film are popping on are a lot more lively than the ones you'd expect to see. So say if you get a real dark scene, you don't expect to see like a really bright, luminous pink.
Yeah.
But that's the way it's kind of shot. It has that kind of Sin City effect. You know how Sin City done the same thing with the black and the white in the first film? And then like colors like red came out. They were still dark, but they were vibrant. This film does the exact same thing with a whole spectrum of colors. It doesn't just focus on like three, it focuses on a lot. But it's done so cleverly and it's timed so perfectly. You just once you don't, it flows so smoothly that it doesn't. You don't really notice it, but you do notice bright colors out of nowhere, and you're just a bit like, wow, you know.
Like, one thing I have noticed about films over the years is I used to be all about dialogue, right? I was actually talking to this with Sean Saul, the filmmaker that I had on for episode 4, about one of his films, because I watched all of his short films again in preparation for doing the podcast with him, and I was saying that he, like, one thing that I really seen is he had a film with quite a lot of dialogue in it, and then he had another film that a lot of the tone and story was set by atmosphere, which is kind of what you were saying there with like the colours.
The atmosphere, you're definitely hitting the nail on the head there. Because you get a lot of the information from the surroundings and from what you're seeing as opposed to what you're watching that person say. Like, instead of getting a lot of context, you are right, it's a lot more visual, but you're getting so much information just from the visual. But yeah, like I say, they beat the crap out of each other. They team up. They take on the Woodsman, Big Bad Ron Perlman, and essentially kind of save the day. They don't stick together. They kind of drift ways, and Woody Harrelson sat there and he's like, "Well, you never know with his little storybook. You never know, these heroes might meet up again." And that's kind of how it ends. You know, I mean, all these people like Kevin McKidd. You could almost say he was a captain of the Redcoats, so he worked for the Woodsman, and he was a very dangerous fighter in this one. When he was a bit eccentric, is another good word to use for him. He had a handkerchief, which I'm positive was a very, very deep red, different red to what the Redcoats uniform was. So once again, that's another color scheme where it just pops because it's an added little visual factor. And he just liked having it around. He was very flamboyant, is another word I'd use with it. And he'd pull out his sword, and he was very, very, very kind of, I wouldn't want to be in a ring with you at all. One, because you're hench, and two, because you're moving around with that thing like a dancer. Like, he was very, very nimble, and he was very, very fluent. And it was good. Like I say, I really enjoyed the film. But the one thing I am going to say right now is I'm definitely conceding that to Donnie Brasco.
1-1. Yes, I'm gonna have to watch that film though.
Bon Raku, it's like I say, not a lot of people have heard of it, but if you're up for an interesting watch, I would definitely say.
We're going to have to make notes of, because you've not seen or haven't seen Donnie Brasco enough to see the whole kind of maybe not story, but like you know what I mean, to see the whole experience of the film, and I've not seen Bon Raku. Well, we will have to rectify these gaps in our memory by watching said films. But yeah, thank you very much. That's 1-1. Moving on to film number 8, which I have.
Shawshank.
The Shawshank Redemption.
Now, everyone loves The Shawshank Redemption. I mean, even I bloody loved that film. I thought it was fantastic. So, I mean, this is going to be another difficult one. I'm actually going to chuck up Fight Club.
now this is going to
Fight
be,
Club.
because I've seen both films, as I'm sure you have as well. So this is going to be intense, because I was quite worried when I actually was trying to fit an animated film in the top 10 somewhere, because I've went quite.
It's not like a proper anime film, but there's an animated character in one of my films, which she's constantly animated. So I'm looking forward to that one.
We're kind of in there, and I had one in there, right, and then I was having a look at the films that I'd watched on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that, just to refresh my memory, because you do forget that you've watched some things and so on. And that
definitely.
came up, and I know a lot of people are probably going to hate me for having that so low down the list in the top 10, because it is sometimes viewed as the greatest film of all time.
Yeah, it is a very good film. It is a very good film.
It's got really good competition here, because I'm a big fan of Fight Club, just because of
Ed Norton's performance was spectacular,
mate. Like Edward Norton is just. I heard he might be difficult to work with in that, but it just seems so worth it. Like, I actually watched.
If that's the end product,
a recent film of his that he made, Motherless Brooklyn. If you ever get the chance to watch it, I highly recommend it. But we're not here to talk about that. It's not on our list.
That's it.
So, do you want to go first this time? Or
yeah, I'll go first with Fight Club. We've all seen it. You all think it's about, good old Ed Norton making friends with Brad Pitt. Now, we all know that's not the case. No. Is it multiple personality disorder?
Yeah, he's a figment of his imagination. Like, it's like
schizophrenia or something like that. It's along that kind of lines.
It turns out, like, he's severely mentally ill, it would appear.
Yeah,
and he's
split into Brad Pitt. So his alter ego is
all the bad stuff that's
Brad
happened
Pitt.
to him in his life, and all the bad stuff that he wants to get out of. It's almost like his moral compass is kind of split, because he sees himself as quite
a good guy,
a noble person, and Brad Pitt's the more extreme
badass.
Yeah, exactly. More irrational and whatnot. And it turns out that that's actually a part of him that's kind of went in, not supernaturally, but it's went on its own kind of tear without even his knowledge, because he kind of wakes up to the fact of what's happening, and he still sees Brad Pitt in that after he realizes all this.
Which is what's confusing him, a major breakdown later on in the film. But yeah, as we know, so Ed Norton suffering we're just going to say a split personality for now, just to make it a bit easier. We all know, to all of us who have seen it, you know what we're talking about. But yeah, as the film transpires, he kind of starts deciding to beat himself up really in a car park, and to say that it's like, why are you doing it? It's like, well, why not? And then what transpires from there is they start getting a little underground space, which Brad Pitt / Ed Norton kind of keep for themselves by bleeding all over the guy who tries to kick them out by letting him get punched in the face repeatedly.
Politician, something like that. Comes in,
and he just allows them to beat him, and he just says, "Is that all you got? I'm dirty." Or so, you don't know what I've got. You don't know where I've been. And he's like spitting all his blood all over him, laughing.
It's a downward spiral of mental state, right? Because
it's going straight down to madness.
Early in the film, you can tell this person's in a bad place because he doesn't sleep.
He's insomniac. Yeah,
and he's going to therapy groups for quite sensitive issues, like. I think there's one for people that have cancer, and then there's other ones for, is it like single parents or something like that?
And testicular cancer is one of them,
And he goes to all these things to make himself feel better, because he feels it's a cathartic experience, even though he has no relation to said experience. So you can tell there's quite a, not a mean streak, but there's a bit of a narcissism to that in itself.
Lack of empathy kind of thing. Otherwise, he wouldn't be there. Obviously, like, the film keeps on transpiring so that they actually create Fight Club, and now we all know the rules of Fight Club. We don't talk about Fight Club,
but we're talking about it, so we've already broken it.
So I'm not in Fight Club, I swear.
Allegedly, button has been pushed.
But yeah, it's they basically become almost like a terrorist organization. They've got bombs. They're almost militarized. They're following orders set by Ed Norton, who still at this point has no idea that he's doing it.
Pretty much like a cult, right? Because when he does realize what's going on, he tries to get all of them to stop, but he's like,
he's forced them all. So you told us you would say this, sir.
Implanted this brainwashing into all of his followers and everyone's in on it.
It's
Literally everyone's in on it.
Is this a test?
Yeah.
Is this a test? No, this is not a test.
Even the cops are in on it. Like, that's one of the most like shocking parts
First
of the
rule
film.
of Fight Club. We don't talk about
Fight Club.
And yeah, I mean, as we know, as it ends, he basically tries to take his own life, because at this point he's realized that Brad Pitt is him, but he is still seeing Brad Pitt. So he takes his gun, sticks it in his mouth, and tries to blow his brains out. But that's what you see what happens to Brad Pitt. But what happens to Ed Norton is that it's actually out the back of his throat almost, isn't it? He's actually still alive, which I thought was a bit, if you're gonna shoot yourself there, why isn't he shot there? Which was the only down part in my head. I get it. It was the only way for him to kind of kill that part of himself. But it was drastic. But it was a very powerful film, definitely, and a very aware film.
End scene is when Helen Bonham Carter, his character, comes in. That's been like his love interest throughout the film.
Yeah, which he also wasn't aware of for some of it.
Yeah, because she's in love with the kind of more extreme part of his personality, which is Brad Pitt. And it's just he fails to stop this attack that he set up. All these buildings start blowing up around him and that, and he just kind of calmly turns to her and says, "You met me at a really peculiar time in my life." And very powerful film psychologically.
Very, very powerful film.
So, The Shawshank Redemption is a film, as most of us will know, but for those who don't, is about a film. I was about to say about prison, but it's not about prison. It's about, I think it's set in, to start off with, it's set in the 1940s, maybe late 1930s, of a penitentiary that a man who is accused of murdering his wife gets sent to, and it also sees from another perspective the inmates that have also been there for a long time. Like Morgan Freeman's character has, I believe he actually murdered someone, so he's in there for a significant period of time, like 40, 50 years, something like that. And there's Morgan Freeman kind of narrates the whole film as well. Which is
it's almost like he's telling you the story.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to how some of Edward Norton's films go. Like he narrates himself, and it's quite a powerful way to set up a film, I think.
Definitely, especially with that voice.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but his voice...
it's the most iconic voice of all time.
Oh, yes, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Morgan Freeman we're talking about here.
Yes.
Although I'm not saying that Edward Norton's is not iconic, but it's just not as iconic as Morgan Freeman's.
Yeah, exactly.
Which he would have to concede if he was... So yeah, Andy Dufresne, which is, I can't remember the actor that plays him again. I think is it Tony Robbins or something like that.
I can't remember his name, but I know who you're on about.
Fact check us in the comments if I've got that wrong. But he enters prison, and he is basically seen as the one that's going to break. Yeah, he's going to break first because they take bets in that. And he's actually quite calm. He's quite.
Didn't make a peep.
Yeah, he's not. He's not as what you would expect someone in that situation. Because I believe, is he like a lawyer or something on the outside, or
no? He was an accountant. Yeah.
So you would think this is, it's not like he's a hardened criminal or anything.
No.
Like that. But no, he's very calm, and it's quite a disturbing opening when they're all there, and one of the inmates is basically crying for his mum, wants to get out of there, and as most normal people would react to being in a maximum security prison like that.
Yeah, very scary kind of surroundings. So,
and he takes quite a beating from one of the head guards, if I remember correctly. Like
he does.
Yeah, and it's all like silent from there because it's all like laughing and joking to begin with, like who's going to break first, and then like everything just kind of. But anyway, so Andy Dufresne, he befriends Morgan Freeman's character, and they kind of he's within their group, right? And as it goes along, he takes a lot of beatings and a lot of despicable attacks from a group.
Yeah.
But he actually manages to make a way into prison and a better life for the rest of that circle in prison by actually helping the guards out with their taxes and
yeah,
so
he does.
And so forth.
Yeah, to make it easier for himself.
When they're all cleaning the roof, and he overhears the guy complaining about tax or something like that.
It's to do with his, I think it was his wife or something like that.
Some kind of settlement, and he helps him out with that, so they all get like a couple beers.
Couple suds, as he says.
Yeah. And it gets to the point where I think because this dude's incredibly intelligent, he starts teaching people in the prison.
He does, yeah. He takes one guy under his wing to help him get grades, doesn't he? Or to learn English and read.
Opens a library as well, right?
Yeah, he does. Sends thousands of letters to get books, and finally gets them.
There's a guy that I wouldn't say works in there, but is in that area as well. The older guy has the
bird,
bird. He's in there, and so basically when they're in said library or whatever, and he's helping this guy get the grades and that, this guy reveals that he was in another prison, and Andy Dufresne, because they've believed all along that he's just never accepted it, that he's guilty, but he's just never accepted it in his own mind. And this guy reveals that when he was in another penitentiary, another person admitted to the act of what Andy Dufresne is incarcerated for. So he goes not crazy, but he's like alert, and he's trying to get everyone, alerted in that. But at the same time, the warden realizes that having him in there is actually beneficial for the prison because he's a very efficient worker in terms of the numbers and that, like we've just mentioned. So that guy that he helps get grades and that gets murdered, assassinated, basically, right? So that he can't speak
by
out.
The guards.
And then Andy Dufresne kind of catches on to what the warden's doing and stuff like that, and there's a big argument, and he gets put into isolation, the hole, I think it is that they call it. Down in the hole. Yeah, and
solitary.
It's a very big blow for him, right? Because his freedom was literally
right in front of him. Yeah, it was dangled in front of him, wasn't it? Yeah,
and it was taken unjustifiably, really, because of corruption. So everything settles down again. Well, it doesn't settle down, but, after he's had his punishment and that, and the story moves on, because this is 10, 15 years in the future. Like, it's not like he's in there for a couple months. Like, he's in there for nearly a lifetime.
Yeah.
So they're in the library and that again, and is it Simmons? Is that the older character's name with the bird? I think it might be. I could be spreading misinformation again there, but about the film.
I don't think it's Simmons. No, I can't remember, because he carves his initials into the halfway house, doesn't he?
He gets out, and actually it starts with he has a guy at knife point, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And like what's happened, because like they're actually friends and that, and it turns out that he's due for parole, and he's that institutionalized because he's been there for 50 years or something like that.
He's scared.
He doesn't want to go back to the outside world, which is a powerful thing, because that is something that actually happens. In reality,
people aren't aware how fast change can happen.
So he gets out, and I think he gets a job as like, and obviously the world's different because it's like 1950 something at this point, maybe 1960 something. He's been in there for 50 years. So when he went in there, 1910, before the invention of automobiles to a grand scale, 2 world wars have happened. So much stuff has happened in the time that he has been incarcerated. I think he gets a job as a supermarket or something like that. I remember
packing bags.
And he basically can't take it, so he decides to
commit
suicide, and that's what you're talking about. He leaves the initials, and I think he writes a letter to the inmates that he was with as well, because I think there's a scene where Morgan Freeman's kind of reading, like, it just, or maybe it's just them getting informed that he's done that.
Yeah, I think they get informed, and it's when Morgan Freeman finally gets out, he goes to the same halfway house, and he sees his initials up there, doesn't he? And I think that kind of drives him to be like, I'm not going to do that.
Because he kind of gets the same, because he's been in there when he eventually gets out for 40, 50 years again, and he's tried to get parole countless times, because there's little markers in the film. I think he goes about 3 or 4 times of where he goes and parole gets denied, and they ask him, well, do you think you've been rehabilitated, so on and so forth. But before we get to that point, Andy Dufresne kind of realizes that enough is enough. Well, actually, no, not that really, because when he makes an escape, and he goes,
which he's planned
for the entire time. the first day that or the second day when he asks for that tool, he's been planning this. So 15, 20 years perhaps?
Digging a hole through his cell wall.
In the cell wall.
Smashing a pipe with a rock.
Covered with a poster, climbs all the way through the sewage to get out. So he escapes, and there's an iconic scene where the warden and the guards and that are in his cells, like, how did he get out of here and stuff like that, and he's questioning all the like
Picks
Morgan
up one of his little
Freeman's
chess pieces, doesn't
and
he?
he throws it and it goes through the poster, and then he just kind of like
Goes up to it like
it,
what?
And then it's just like this reverse angle of it, the camera looking at him through the tunnel, and it kind of zooming out and seeing all the kind of stuff that he's done to get out, which is a really elaborate escape.
It's when he's planting that sewage pipe and he's doing it to the same time as the light, as the thunder. You're just like, oh, you clever man. What?
And then so it comes to where we were just talking about Morgan Freeman gets released from prison, he gets parole, but they've always talked about throughout the film meeting in an island or a city somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it's in the...
He tells him to go to a tree.
Yeah, which he's almost set up like a miniature.
It's like a little treasure hunt.
A massive treasure hunt. So like you said, Morgan Freeman gets out and he kind of tries to do the same thing that the other character had done that couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And he, like you said, it comes to a moment of where he is in the exact same position as what that guy was and sees his initials, and it's kind of like, I can't do this. I didn't go for parole that many times just to,
end it all here.
Yeah. So he ends up taking up the task of trying to reunite with Andy Dufresne, who's still not... Well, the warden and all that have been arrested at this point, and it's all been exposed as like really corrupt kind of institutional corruption within the said prison.
Yeah.
So, he, like he said, he goes to that tree and he digs up...
It's almost like a little tin, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it's got tickets in it.
Yeah. And then he manages to... I think he flies or he gets on a boat or something, and then it's
something like that.
The end scene is Andy Dufresne like working on
a little boat,
yeah, and Morgan Freeman coming down the beach, and they kind of reconnect, and then the shot kind of zooms out slowly as they're away to like kind of embrace and whatnot, and that's where the film ends, which is
another powerful ending. It was good. Ending. It was a happy ending
because it's quite an emotional roller coaster.
It is.
That film.
The whole film, Shawshank Redemption, is a bit of a emotional roller coaster because you do feel bad for Andy Dufresne because he was wrongfully incarcerated. Yeah. The proof was dangled in front of him. That chance was taken away because it was a greedy prison. Yeah, the whole thing. You just like, I want this guy to get his, to get his own back. Oh, and he does it spectacularly, and it's just, it's fantastic. It is such a good film. But I am not conceding nothing just yet.
This is going to cause a bit of controversy, but I'm going to concede this to Fight Club because I do appreciate its uniqueness of the psychology.
Yeah, and it was kind of the first film of its time to do like a major blockbuster to really do awareness on. It is an extreme look on mental health, a very extreme look, but people experience that stuff, and it is maybe not.
To that extent.
Maybe not, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I mean, people do suffer these kind of things like alter ego, split personality, schizophrenia, all that kind of thing. So, yeah, it was nice to have such a blockbuster, and such a nitty gritty film. So, a lot of strong violence.
Putting it lightly.
I mean, it also developed a game as well. Did you ever play the Fight Club game?
I never played the game.
If you ever played Hole of Meat on any kind of skateboarding game, when you deliberately go around and crack bones and it shows you all the bones. Well, this Fight Club game, when you're fighting people, if you got a good hit on them,
it would be the same.
Done the X-ray, and you'd watch like ribs crack, and oh man, it was intense, and it was just, it literally just made you think. It's just Fight Club. Fight Club's amazing. Such a good film. So yeah. So number 8 goes to Fight Club.
Right. Spot number 7. I have. This is going to be interesting. I have Trainspotting, a film that probably defined a generation in this country, I feel.
Right. I was gonna try save my one because I wasn't too sure, but I'm not. I'm gonna go with. It's essentially. It's almost like the same kind of. It's not the same storyline. Like, I know Trainspotting storyline it gets a little bit dark, but this one's a bit more, it's still the same kind of thing. It's to do with drugs and friends. So it's human traffic.
Okay. I've not seen this film, so you will have to explain to me.
Human traffic is essentially a film about a group of friends, and like it introduces you to who they all are. and then it basically shows you the build-up of the night that they're going out on. So it's a whole build-up from them getting ready, from them sorting things out, from them making sure they got their supplies, to them meeting up, to them actually getting essentially wrecked, being in clubs, and all the stories they start talking about. And the way some of it's done, like there's a scene near the beginning, I'm pretty sure it's John Sim. A young John Sim. And he's in a clothing store where there's loads of piles of jeans everywhere. And the scene of him, he's stood there and he sees an ex-girlfriend come in, and he starts getting all embarrassed. And you're like, all right, what's going on here? Now, the movement of the old kind of failed hookup and her new partner come up like they're on a conveyor belt. You don't see them actually stepping. They're just moving ever forward towards where John Sim is at the till. And then this is all not what's happening. Obviously, this is what he's just
imagining.
Yeah, visualizing. And she's wearing this T-shirt, which he's wearing a T-shirt which says Mr. Floppy. Because essentially he couldn't get it up, and he couldn't do the business. And it played such a big thing on him. And he basically, it comes around when she's like, why wouldn't it work? And it breaks back to these two real butch guys stood there going, he couldn't get it up for the birds. But that's just literally, this is one of the opening scenes.
Sounds like a football pub in East London or something
There's honestly, it's out there. And when it introduces you to Coop, his best friend, Coop works in a vinyl shop, so he's pushing vinyls. And he's so slick with what he says. Like, a guy comes in, he's like, I'm looking for some certain genre of music. Just say some rap. He's like, I've got the best rap. It just came in the Vine this morning. And he like puts it on. Like, one of the names I'm not going to repeat because it's racist. I can't say that.
Okay.
So, but it is funny. It is actually funny the way he does it, the way he portrays it. And he tries to explain. He's basically trying to rob a guy, basically, by like taking more money for what this vinyl is actually worth. And he's like, artists, like music artists, how when painting artists, their art gets more expensive when they die. Well, with music artists, their stuff gets well more expensive when they get locked down. So that's his excuse for trying to get like 40 quid out of one vinyl.
Love how you just reenacted that scene there.
It's like, oh man, but Coop, he's fantastic. He's so funny. And him and John Sim have loads of good points together throughout the night, like when they're actually like in the starting area in the pub, just having a casual drink, having a chat, and then they move to the club, and then they move to the after party. But there's honestly, there's not enough hours in the day to try to explain all this film to you, because it is, you just need to know it is well worth a watch. It's got Danny Dyer, a young Danny Dyer in it, He plays a character called Moth, who basically plays like a 30-year-old guy who just won't move out of his parents' house. I wouldn't even say, I don't think he plays 30. I think he might even play like a mid-20s kind of guy. He just doesn't want to move out of his parents' house. And it kind of shows you all the chaos he gets involved. Like, he starts masturbating, and his mum walks in, and he's all totally embarrassed.
Yeah.
And but there's scenes of him and John Sim, like Danny Dyer's on the toilet and he's on the phone, and then John Sim's ringing him. He's going, "All right, bruv." He's like, "Yes, brother." And they're just going, "All right, bruv." They're just doing like the WhatsApp thing, but it's just like, bruv. And the screaming and beers going everywhere all over Danny Dyer while he's just sat on the toilet, like, like doing his business but going mad on the phone. But the whole atmosphere of the film, it just makes you want to go out and basically get absolutely smashed and have a real good time, because it's based in Swansea. That's where it's based. So it's based in Wales. Yeah, the whole thing is based in Wales. But it's such a good film. It's so good. It's one of the films that when you watch it, you will go home and you're like, I am going to watch that again, because that was phenomenal. It was actually just phenomenal.
I'll have to watch that one as well.
Yeah, the one thing it does lack is it doesn't really have drama. There's no like doom. There's no doom and gloom. So it's a good thing, I would say. It is like just a kind of there's parts where you're like, oh, this might go a bit sideways kind of style, but there's nothing that's really making you like, oh, this is like a dark moment. There's no dark moments in it, as long as you kind of understand what's going on.
Yeah. So my case for Trainspotting in this is, I think it's a film that defined a feeling of the nation at the time, and I wasn't born to experience this, but from what I've seen of behind the scenes and documentaries on said film and whatnot, everyone basically knows what Trainspotting's about. It's not just about, you know, the whole heroin consumption lifestyle that happens to the characters in the film. I see it as a film that's about redemption and about overcoming something, an obstacle. The addiction is the obstacle that they can't get over, and Mark Renton finds himself in the same scenarios and stuff, and he's always trying to aspire to do have a better life, right? But he always ends back up in the first space that he was at the start of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And to keep it brief on it, because a lot of people will have watched the film and that, and I highly recommend watching the film, because I'm going to go into why I think it should be in here just off of the kind of aura around it.
Yeah.
So at the end, they do a deal. One of the guys that isn't addicted to the drugs that they're taking and that, Begbie, sets up this stuff, and they make £16,000. There's 4 of them, so they're going to split it 4 ways, $4,000. And there's a bit in a bar where Begbie, who's a bit of a he is a loose cannon.
Is that Carlyle?
Robert Carlyle, yes. He gets into a fight with a guy in the pub because knock each other pints off or something like that.
I'm pretty sure it's because he actually throws a pint.
Yeah.
But it starts him himself.
They knock into each other, then he throws a pint.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's you're talking about when he's.
Yeah.
That's earlier in the film.
Yeah, that's the one I thought you were on about.
A few fights in pubs, but anyway, Mark Renton kind of comes to the conclusion that nothing's going to change. They're always going to be in these scenarios, and if he wants to improve his own life, he's going to have to do one last horrendous thing, which is rip the rest of them off by taking the money and running, which exactly he does. This film has one of the most appropriate endings, I think. And there was a second film made, and I don't even think the second film's bad, but I think that they shouldn't have made it, because I think
it was good enough as just one.
Yeah, I just think the kind of thought-provoking at the end of the first film, just from that ending alone, is iconic.
Because I mean, Trainspotting's a powerful film.
Yeah,
it is a powerful film. Like you say, it talks about addiction. It talks about every little dark hole addiction can take you through to and make you stay in. You know, I mean, the scene with the baby and that, like that. I'm not being funny. Trainspotting's one of those films. I have watched it. I've watched it more than once. I'm not the biggest fan of the film, and it's generally due to that scene.
Yeah,
because
it makes you feel uncomfortable. Right?
It makes me feel real uncomfortable, but it only makes you feel uncomfortable because you know that stuff happens.
Yeah.
It's
not self-reflection in terms of like you do that.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't. Yeah, it's a reality. Yeah, you're right. It's a reality check that this stuff happens, and it is happening on like everyone's doorstep. You know, I mean, people everywhere are doing well. Maybe not everyone. You know, obviously not everyone, but there's always someone in it, at least everywhere. You know, doing something like they shouldn't be, especially like bloody heroin, man. I mean. Well, you know, it's a life destroyer, that one. And and they decided to do a film on it, man. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But eye-opening, definitely eye-opening.
In the 90s as well, when it was released, it was kind of a new era. I know it all went to crap in the end, but New Labour had just gotten in. There had been a conservative government for like 30, 35 years. Everyone thought this was the end to austerity. Things were going to get better. That people were obviously it didn't turn out like that, but the feeling around that, which was kind of encapsulated in that film, there was great hope for everyone everyone's life was going to change and stuff like that. And I think that film represents that in a great way. And like I said, I don't even particularly dislike the second film. I just think the first one ends as perfectly as you could end it on. So I guess it's decision time.
But this is where we really need a third for this one, don't we?
Yeah.
Human Traffic is, like I say, it's a lot like Trainspotting. It's a group of friends who are all doing drugs, all different kinds of drugs. It's like I say, you get to see what they think's happening. You get to see them in certain scenarios when they are on drugs. You get to see them in the same scenario when the drugs are wearing off. So you get to see the good point. You get to see the highs. You get to see the lows. But it's always portrayed in like not like a proper comedy side, but it is portrayed where it does make you giggle. You are like, oh me, like But then I know Trainspotting and Ewan McGregor, Scotland.
Kevin McKidd's in it again, man.
Trainspotting.
Yes. We're not even halfway through this as well. We've been going for an hour.
We knew this wasn't going to be an easy one. This is just debates, people.
Yeah.
We only decided to do an episode on this, literally just to let you kind of see us talk about it. And see us in a bit more of a relaxed atmosphere. Yeah. But we're going to get a bit tense pretty soon.
Okay, but what we got? I've got The Departed. Okay, there's nothing on this earth that is going to convince me to can see The Departed. So
I've not watched The Departed.
Well, you'll hear about it in a second.
Right, I'll put Pulp Fiction.
good counter argument, but I'm still not conceding. I'm not doing it.
Not doing it.
Right. Well, considering you've not watched The Departed, I'll take the lead on this one.
Who's the main actor?
Everyone. Oh. It's got one of the most stacked casts I've ever seen in my life, right? So you've got Matt Damon, DiCaprio, Mark Wahlberg, Martin Sheen, Alec Baldwin,
everyone,
Jack Nicholson.
Everyone.
Through the kitchen sink at this one. Martin Scorsese won an Oscar for Best Director, finally. After all those great films, he finally got one. So The Departed is basically, it's not like Donnie Brasco, but there's an undercover element to it. So it follows multiple factions. Matt Damon is someone that has went through the police system to become a detective and that, but he's actually corrupt. When he's met Jack Nicholson is like the mob leader in this film, and he meets Matt Damon when he's a kid in a diner.
Right, okay.
And he works for him, and he is kind of planted to, help Jack Nicholson out because obviously he controls higher up in the Boston police system. Right, okay. Leonardo DiCaprio is a guy called Billy Costigan. He's from a, kind of like a crime, not a crime family, but a family that gets into trouble. He's not meant to be a police officer, but he gets in through the academy, but they don't want to use him as a patrol officer. So Martin Sheen and Mark Wahlberg, who are also two higher-ups in the police, legit higher-ups in the police, say to him, we need you to do this undercover thing because you've got experience of being in this type of life and that. And there's always a famous saying, it's like, do it again for me. Yeah. So he agrees to do that. He goes to prison to be part of his undercover operation to convince that he's not a police officer or anything. And so there's a lot of drama and betrayal that happens in this film. Mm-hmm. DiCaprio kind of goes close to the edge with being in this stressful situation because
he's such a good actor.
Yeah.
DiCaprio's amazing.
And
I'm worried. Worried.
So he's on that side of things. Matt Damon's on the side of stopping anything from happening to Costello, which is Jack Nicholson's character. Yeah. And then they kind of realize that there's probably a mole in the organization when they see what's happening and him constantly being one step ahead of them and that. And they put Matt Damon in charge of finding the mole, which is, like he says, he meets Jack Nicholson in the cinema and he's like, I'm tasked with finding myself. But DiCaprio's there in the cinema, follow them and that, but he can't see Matt Damon's face. There's like a really tense scene of the text that he gets from Martin Sheen's character, and that is under restricted, obviously, so that they don't know who it is that's contacting him. And he nearly arrests Matt Damon at that point in the film, but Matt Damon accidentally he thinks someone's following him, and he's right, but I think he stabs a chef that's innocently walking by, and then he gets away and stuff because he thought that it was the person following him. Which it's kind of legit and whatnot.
But it just wasn't the chef.
Yeah, the chef was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah. Martin Sheen gets thrown off a building.
Oh, wow.
They know that there's an undercover in the mob at the same time. So it's a good dynamic of they know that there's someone on their side in the police, and the mob know that there's someone on their side in the mob, and they're kind of also. So Martin Sheen gets thrown off of a building after Costigan's cover nearly gets blown. Very sad. I'm a big Martin Sheen fan. It was quite hard to see, but anyway, to kind of fast forward to the end of this film, because I don't want to give it all away.
Yeah, I've not seen it. It sounds good.
So Costello turns out to be an FBI informant. Like, he's been dobbing everyone in. Matt Damon ends up killing him because he needs to keep his own cover. This is all about portrayal, and the ending is really, really appropriate of what it represents at the end. So Leonardo DiCaprio's character comes in, and he's dealing with Matt Damon's character now because Martin Sheen died, obviously, and he got put in charge of
the operation.
Yeah, and he's away to go get him his money to pay and then release him. And Leonardo DiCaprio sees this letter that he's seen whilst he was in Costello's crew, that they were sending in to try and find out who the informant was in the police, and they all had to send in so that the guy in the police could do the background check. Right. So he catches on at that point that Matt Damon is the rat, so to speak. So he runs out. It turns out like Costello's lawyer got in contact with him because he ends up being like the most it's kind of similar to Donnie Brasco. He ends up being the most trusted one in the mob, even though they knew he was an ex-police officer, but they are convinced that he actually went to prison and he messed it all up in that. So he ends up getting Matt Damon to come to the bit where they threw Martin Sheen off of, because he's played all these tapes to Matt Damon through, like, he sent them in a cassette tape. And he listens to it all, and like he realizes like he's got so much dirt on him, and it turns out like Costello's lawyer trusted him with all the stuff that Costello had after Costello died. So there's this tense bit. Matt Damon comes up, and DiCaprio's like kind of hiding behind the corner, and then he slams the door and he like has him at gunpoint, and he arrests him and that, punches him in the face a couple of times. A really intense scene, and like Matt Damon's like, just come in, we'll sort this all out. Like, Costello was mine for it, because he kind of knows the gig's up.
Yeah.
And another cop comes that was actually in the start of the academy with DiCaprio's character, and they kind of get, this is like right at the start, they kind of become good friends. You don't see them until this part I'm about to bring up again, and he's like, step away from Sergeant Sullivan, which is Damon's character, and that. And he's like, you know me, I told you to bring Dingham, which is Mark Wahlberg's character, but in the meantime of Martin Sheen's character dying and Damon's getting put in place, Mark Wahlberg's character gets signed off or something because there's a fight or something. So there's like this tense standoff where he's got him like kind of like that. Yeah. And he's taking him down the stairs, and the cops following that, and they go into an elevator, and he's in the elevator, he's got him handcuffed, he's going to bring him in and,
get him booked.
Reveal that he is the, not informant, but rat or whatever the police have been struggling to nail organised crime for. And then it's quite eerie in the elevator, and Matt Damon's character kind of starts sobbing. He was like, just kill me, man, just kill me. And like Leonardo DiCaprio's character kind of looks at him and then just goes, I am killing you. And then as the elevator door opens, he's about to walk through, bang, shot through the head. DiCaprio's character just gone like that. It's one of the most shocking endings I've ever seen of all. I couldn't get over it. So then this other guy was here, turns out he's a corrupt officer as well. I was like, do you think you were the only one that Costello had on the inside, right? So then the guy that was upstairs with him, the guy that was following them to begin with, the guy that I mentioned that was in the academy, he comes down, finds Leonardo DiCaprio's character dead. He kind of looks down on that. Then this guy that shot DiCaprio shoots him, so he goes, and then it looks like he's about to help Matt Damon escape. Right, he takes the cuffs off him and that. And Matt Damon's looking at DiCaprio's body, takes DiCaprio's gun, and then shoots the guy that just saved him in the head. Because obviously, he knows,
he knows too much.
Yeah, like he knows who he is and that, so he's kind of got a bit of power over him. So you think Matt Damon's character has totally played this off, because he ends up blaming that guy as the rat and killing DiCaprio's character and stuff. So you think they get the funerals with the bagpipes and everything, and you think Matt Damon's character's got away with it, right? And he goes back to his house, and it turns out DiCaprio had sent all these tapes and that to Mark Wahlberg's character.
Oh.
So the final scene is Matt Damon's getting into his apartment. Shuts the door's open. He just looks up, and there's a guy with what they call the forensics people use to like.
Oh yeah, the overalls. Yeah.
But it's just like the boot things, and it's a guy in a tracksuit, and it comes up. It's Mark Wahlberg in a hat, and kind of Matt Damon's just kind of clicked on everything. He's like, "All right," and then Mark Wahlberg puts the gun up. Bang! Matt Damon's character gone. Mark Wahlberg exits, puts the hat on, the gloves on, gone, and then it just zooms into the distance of one of the iconic buildings in Boston, and this is the part I love the most. There's just a rat running along this windowsill, which is a very good representation of what the film is all about.
A rat. That is actually really clever for that ending, isn't it?
It's very shocking. Like the first time I seen it, I couldn't get over how many people got clipped.
Yeah.
In like the final 5 minutes.
Well, I mean, when I like films like that. I mean, this film's not on my list. I don't even think I can remember what it's called, but I know it's got Ryan Reynolds in space, and it's to do with some kind of alien life form. Right. And when you see Ryan Reynolds, you expect him to be the main actor throughout the whole film. He was the first one to die. Mm-hmm. I was like, what? I'm not watching this.
Yeah.
What are you on about? What do you mean Ryan Reynolds is dead? It's like, no, I'm not watching this. No way. Right. But anyway, yeah. Pulp Fiction. Well, we all know Quentin Tarantino, absolute badass. Such a strong film. So
much stuff's going on in that film.
Yeah, and the time jumps are quite crazy to follow.
Unique thing about Tarantino's films, and you can say this about other things as well, like Reservoir Dogs and films like that, is that the pieces aren't always in chronological order.
No, not at all.
There's a lot of jumbling and mixing about. And
it's like you can see someone get killed, and then the next scene you're getting to watch them again. Yeah, but from like earlier on that month, and you're a bit like, oh, okay. We're going to do your history lesson. Let's do this.
It's like someone's took a bunch of clips and just thrown them at the TV, and it just works.
But I mean, you've got such a good cast in it, you know.
Bruce Willis. Well, Samuel L.
Well, Samuel L. Jackson. He's so good. I'm forgetting his bloody name now.
Harvey Keitel's Winston Wolfe. Oh, John Travolta.
There we go. I'm like that. I'm thinking I've had his face. I'm just like, I can't remember his name. But yeah, it's like such a good film. So powerful. Like the directing on that film is amazing. Like it is a long film, and I know that it is a long film, and there are parts of it where you're like, this is, I would maybe say, not needed, but I mean, for back in the day and for the way that Quentin Tarantino does his films, it's a masterpiece. If you think of some of his films that have came out since then, not a lot of them touch anywhere near how good Pulp Fiction was.
If this was any other film this was going up against, I would concede. But
you're not.
I don't have it in me to concede.
You know what? The way that you've explained The Departed, you have kind of twisted my arm. I am extremely intrigued to watch it. But I also have this feeling in my head now that I may have seen it, but I'm gonna have to watch it. I'm gonna have to concede it myself. I may love Pulp Fiction, but
everyone loves Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, but I mean, you've intrigued me too much.
If this was against Rush Hour or Trainspotting, even Donnie Brasco, I would concede, but I can't concede The Departed, man. It's too good.
Today.
It's too good, man. Any other? Well, maybe not my number one choice, but we'll get to that. Anyway, number 5. What we got? I've got Forrest Gump. A bit of a common theme of edgy, action-packed, undercover movies that Forrest Gump is. Obviously, sarcasm there.
Yeah, I'm going to chuck up Interstellar.
Yeah, man.
Matthew McConaughey.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I'll let you go first.
So, Forrest Gump is an emotional roller coaster in the sense of you kind of feel it as like a comedy film at first, right? You kind of feel like it's like, oh, it's all happy and that is, it's going to keep that rhythm, and then it goes to, he struggles to run at first, and his mum has to do a lot to get him into school. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And then he's running from bullies one day with these braces, and he breaks free, and then he becomes like a power runner. He's like an American football player. Forrest Gump has learning disabilities, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, but I'm not 100% sure because back in the time when you weren't really...
His IQ's very low.
Yeah. He was not the sharpest tool in the shed by all means, but the man can run.
He achieves so much in spite of that, which is, I think, is one of the main kind of points of the film. So he goes on to do American football. He's in the army. He's always in famous like scenes, like, you know how they cut to like some protest or meeting the president. He's always there. He's always there in the background. He ends up doing a shrimping business with Lieutenant Dan.
Bubba Shrimp.
He ends up running for like ages to the point where his beard's like almost...
Yeah.
He achieves all this stuff in like a 10, 15 year period.
Mm-hmm.
And he, his childhood best friend / Jenny is someone that he adores throughout the film, and he keeps coming into contact with her in different scenarios and so forth, and she goes through a bit of a bad time.
She actually has his child, doesn't she?
Forgot about that. He doesn't know, doesn't he?
No.
And he's at a bus stop and he's telling all these stories to different people that are waiting for the bus to go. And it's actually, that's all past and that he tells them that, but then it gets to a point where it's actually him on the way to see Jenny. Like, that's why he's been there the entire time.
Yeah.
And he gets told that like it's actually just round the corner or something.
What?
So yeah, it gets to a point where his mum passes away, and that it's all really sad because he's been in the same house his entire life, and he's lost people close to him, and there's that iconic line, "Life's like a box of chocolates that his mum comes up with. You never know what you're going to get," and stuff. And that's quite upsetting to see because obviously he, because of his low IQ and that, he's kind of blissfully, I know, he doesn't realize certain bad things are going to happen until they've happened, right? Like, when she tries to break it to him that she is going to die, he doesn't quite grasp it until it's actually happened. And then
always looking on the bright side of life.
Always only looking on the bright side of life. Some great message to take from that film. He what's the word? Rekindles with Jenny? No.
Well, kind of, but I believe, is she not like terminally ill?
Yes. Well, he finds that a lot of bombshells happen, right? He finds out that he has a son to her after, I guess about one night stand or something like that. Forrest Jr., I think he's called.
I can't remember.
I think he might just be called Forrest as well, I think. Anyway, so he finds out that, so he's like, like, I'm a dad, like, wow. And then he starts talking, and it's all good. And then she drops the other bombshell that she's terminally ill. I think
I want to say cancer, but I can't really remember.
I think it is. And then she ends up passing away in that house that he's stayed in, and that because he, she lives with him again for a bit, and then he's tasked with looking after his son towards the end of the film. And I think he buries Jenny at the tree they used to sit at or something. It's quite. This is where it gets
kind of heart wrenching.
You have to be a bit heartless not to feel something in those moments. But there's a scene that kind of comes full circle where he gets on the bus, and the lady's like, "You gonna get on?" He says, "Oh, my name's Forrest Gump," and he has like the braces and that. Do you remember that where he gets on the bus for the first time, and Jenny's the one that lets him sit next to her, and that's how like their kind of friendship starts. And then Forrest Jr., or the son that he's had with Jenny, goes to start school, and he gets on the bus, the exact same place that he got on, and it's still the same lady in that, but he's very intelligent, the kid, it turns out.
Oh, right.
And the son gets on the bus, and it's like Forrest Gump saying goodbye to his son and that. Not for like eternity, obviously.
It's
just he's going to school. But that's where the film ends, and everyone's, majority of people that watch this will have seen it. Like, it's one of the most iconic films. It's got Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks was a great. He still is a great actor.
What has Tom Hanks not done?
Has he done a horror film?
I get about that. That's a good That's a good question.
I don't think he's done a horror film.
Episode 8.
Tom Hanks.
But yeah, I'll let you. I actually went into that much depth there that I've actually forgotten what one you're hitting.
So yeah, Interstellar.
Yeah. Oh man.
Good old Matthew McConaughey.
I think we know where this one's going.
Yeah,
folks.
I'm gonna win. So Interstellar, a fantastic film, definite sci-fi film. Very futuristic. Starts off as that the Earth is basically getting super polluted, and that they can't live there. They're all essentially suffering a cough and stuff because it looks like everything's almost like desert-like. So the planet's becoming unlivable. So obviously Matthew McConaughey's been like trying to find a way to survive for the rest of the Earth to survive. So they plan on actually, I think they try to go to space, and they have somewhere, I believe there's a target they're actually aiming for. But what ends up actually happening is they start getting pulled towards a black hole. Because they do go out to other planets because other people were sent there first, but obviously the closer to this black hole that they're getting, they're not realizing the time dilation. So they go down to one planet for what they believe to be 2 hours, and what actually happened to the guys that were far enough away to not be bothered by the time dilation, it was years. Like, they went away, there was not one grey hair on them, they came back, they were all grey, and there's only one of them left, and there wasn't 3 left on the ship anymore. And you're just like, wow. So it's very factual. Well, to a point, it was kind of factual, I mean, it's showing you creativity with these different planets. Like, there was just a planet of water, and the issue with it was that there was just a constant tidal wave. Yeah. Just going around the planet, just this massive ass wave. You were just like, really? Because they stood there, and they're like, oh, it's not very deep, And then the water's getting dragged, and they're like, what? And they look, and this thing's like the Empire State Building. Yeah. It is just a planet of a tidal wave just coming at them. And that's the one when they go back to the main ship, and that's when they realize about the time dilation. We've only been away for like 2 hours. And it's like, it's been 20 years.
20 years, yeah. And there's an emotional kind of side to the story of where Matthew McConaughey's character kind of leaves his daughter behind, and she actually kind of...
She saves the day for everyone, but that's due to the black hole. Because you think that in the beginning of the film, they start thinking that there's ghosts or spirits or someone's trying to connect with them by knocking books off, and they think it's saying they think it's saying this, but what they're actually saying is don't go, don't do it. And what actually transpires is that it's actually Matthew McConaughey that's doing this, because when he goes into the black hole, when they've realized they can't escape it, they've got to suck it up, he's just going to have to go for it. He goes into the black hole, and it's almost like obviously, we have no idea. We have no idea. We imagine we're going to be all compacted and we're just going to die. Yeah. But until someone actually goes into one, we just don't actually know, do we? We don't know. We can imagine, we have an idea, we have a pretty good, strong thesis for it, but this film totally blew it out of the water. He goes in the black hole, and it's almost like he's been transported into time itself. So it's all dark, but he can see his own time frame dotted around, and he's trying to send these messages through like an SOS kind of pattern with the books, which is what you see at the beginning of the film, and it is him saying, stop, don't go, just don't do it, because this is going to happen. And that's when his daughters realised what was actually trying to happen. Yeah, she kind
of deciphers the...
And it's to do with the watch as well. He messes with the watch, so the watch transpires a signal or a certain code that she picks up on, and then she ends up actually saving the world. So when Matthew McConaughey emerges from this black hole, essentially gets spat out the other side, he's in the future, isn't he?
He finds his daughter as an elderly,
as an actual elder,
on her deathbed, and it's
I've been waiting for you.
It's really surreal and weird, but it's also very emotional, especially when she says, I was waiting for my dad to come back, and that, and McConaughey's so good at like
it's an emotional role.
Yeah, but he does the face of like where you try to keep emotion in. Yeah, and that's really powerful. Like, that is one of the best film, and the instrumental for that film, check out Hans Zimmer. Is really, really powerful as well.
I remember when I watched this film, I was living down in my flat in Lossy, and I watched it. I was completely with me and the dog, and I sat there on my couch and I just watched it, and it literally ended, and I was that mesmerized with what I just watched. I actually sat up, and I knew no one was in my house, but I actually felt the need to announce, My God, that was absolutely amazing. That was fantastic. And by the end of it, I just realized I'm only talking to my dog.
Yeah. I mean, the dog needs to know as well.
Everyone needed to know that. Well, I watched that film and I was like, wow. And that is exactly why it's made it onto my list. And that is exactly why it's going to smash Forrest Gump.
Yeah. Agreed. Interstellar takes position number 5.
Yeah.
Great film.
It's such a good film.
Position number 4, my wild card, Saving Private Ryan, one of the greatest films, especially war films of all time. Your response, John? Game of poker this now, man. You're trying to figure out how to beat me rather than where you're actually putting the films.
I'm going to go with iRobot.
I think I've heard about it. Is this the 80s version?
No. This is the one with Will Smith.
I think I might. Is this where he's a cop in the future?
Yeah.
Right. I've briefly seen it, yes.
So yeah, iRobot is a very futuristic film starring not our very own, but the one and only Will Smith.
And he's here today.
I wish, man. He's that'll be amazing. But yeah, Will Smith, he plays a cop in a time where basically robots serve humanity. And they've got the 3 laws where they're not allowed to harm anyone or anything like that. But Will Smith is that convinced that there is something wrong with their programming that they just cannot be trusted. And rightfully so, as it transpires.
It's kind of rightfully so. In today's world as well, right? We're always kind of worried, how good is AI going to get?
Yeah, exactly. Are there like blocks on AI for at least some kind of safety, just in case it decides we're not viable anymore?
Actually, we're smarter.
You can get in the bin. Bombs. Boom. But yeah, and it transpires that basically the AI in iRobot is actually, she's decided that humans are a danger to themselves. Rightfully so. In every kind of film which has that kind of stuff in it, it's always because we just kill each other.
So it's a logical reason, no emotion behind it. It's
just pure logic. There is no emotion within AI, is there? It is always going to be 100% balanced up with its own argument.
What is efficient?
Right? Yeah.
I don't know why I used that.
And Will Smith basically starts clicking on that this AI is controlling the other robots. Like when it takes control of them, they kind of have a glow red instead of a blue red, which has been present in Sonny, who is a very unique robot. He is essentially his very own AI. He learns and he wants to learn. He wants to learn about human emotion. He really tries to. And him and Will Smith at first really jar heads. But as the film transpires and gets further on in nearer the end, they actually become kind of friends, and they have little signals which they now send to each other. I think one of them was a wink, and that basically it allows Will Smith to basically kind of save himself, the girl, and Sonny also does his own bit where he's jumping around like Tomb Raider, shooting people, being an absolute badass.
This film's, I believe it's set in 2032.
I believe so.
Which is crazy because we're not that far away from that. We're only 11 years away.
Yeah, imagine. I want my very own Sonny.
Hoping it was a bit wide of the mark, that film.
Well, put it this way, I will not allow any construction vehicles to just randomly turn on and plow my house down. That is not happening. But yeah, like I say, it's such a good film. It is emotional because it takes you into Will Smith's kind of background as to why he doesn't trust them. Like he tried to save someone from a car, and the robot decided, due to who had a better chance of living, who was saved, and it wasn't. Will Smith was like, you could save the girl, I'll be okay. And the robot was like, no, you have the best chance of living, so you're getting
that whole
saved.
kind of logical over emotional decision making again.
Which is why he believes, obviously, it's always got to be a human thing, because a human will always try to save the youngest first. It's what we do. We always try to save the infants. It's just how we're genetically made. Against your Saving Private Ryan.
I've got actually an interesting. When I had, it's not a spoiler. It's just maybe a bit of a spoiler for you, because by the time that this is out, the Sean Saul episode will have been out. But when I was speaking to Sean, right, I was asking him what was the first thing that got him into filmmaking, right, or made him, think about taking it up. And he was saying he was watching Saving Private Ryan, and he was watching a behind the scenes version with Steven Spielberg, and he was saying, he was like, it was more I was interested in playing army when I was little,
Oh, right.
And see the explosions like for like a grenade or something going off in one of these war films. One thing that they do is they have they fill this hole with like water, and they put a cover over it, and they balance on a stick, and someone jumps on it, and it makes it look like an explosion, which I never knew. I found that really, really cool.
So it's almost like the landmine.
Yeah. Like that. That's what kind of causes the. At the time, anyway. Obviously, there's more like stuff like CGI and that now, but at the time, that's what caused it. And he was like, that was like my first time I took interest in something to do with film, and I found that interesting. But we also brought it up for messages behind films, and basically the message in Saving Private Ryan, from what I gather from it, is how many lives are worth sacrificing in the sake of saving one. Because they set up I wouldn't say a battalion or a company, but a squad of people to go find Private Ryan in Normandy after the D-Day landings, because he is the last brother of a family of 3 or 4, and all of his other brothers have died in combat. And along the way, I'm trying to think about how many of them. So Vin Diesel goes first. He gets killed by that sniper. I take it you've seen the film, right?
I have. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
I've got to be honest. I'm not the biggest fan of kind of like war films and that.
So, Vin Diesel, he goes first, and then I'm trying to think of the medic guy. He gets gunned down at the gun station, and then I think the only one that's left is the guy that tries to leave halfway through the film, and him and Private Ryan. So basically, the whole company or squad that they've assembled gets taken out to make sure Private Ryan gets home. And there's a really, because they have this massive battle with the Germans in one of these French towns, because they need to keep the bridge. They need to keep control of the bridge so that they can push further into France and that. And he refuses to go because he doesn't want to leave the people that he's been with, because there's a camaraderie there, right? Especially, no one wants to go to war, but in that period of time where everyone kind of had to because of the situation that was happening, you obviously become a close bond with everyone around you, I would imagine, just because of the situation that you're in.
Well, they become your brothers, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Hence the miniseries they made off of Saving Private Ryan, Band of Brothers. But the most powerful bit of this film for me is it starts off with an elderly man going to the Washington Monument, but there's a memorial for the World War II like graves and that. It's got like
everyone's names and that.
Crosses with the names and so on. And he goes to one that's labelled Captain Miller, which turns out to be Tom Hanks' character, and the elderly man that goes there with his family turns out to be Private Ryan.
Oh, right, okay.
And at the end, it switches back to that, but the scene just before it switches back to current day, Tom Hanks, there's a scene where there's this Panzer, I believe, is coming over the bridge.
Big ass tank.
Germans are overrunning and that, and Tom Hanks has kind of been shot a couple of times, and he's just shooting away at this tank, like,
Why
and
not?
then as he shoots the last bullet, the tank blows up, and he's like, "Wait, what?" And it turns out like the planes and cavalry's arrived and that, but he ends up passing away, right? And they try to save him and that, and Private Ryan's there with him, because like he basically owes his life to these people that were there and fought and died, and you can faintly hear it. I remember for like 10 years, I only found out like a couple of years ago what he actually says, but for years, like he whispers something in his ear, and I was like, "What is he saying?" And I amplified it and like had headphones in, and I think I got it. And then I looked it up, and I was, what does he say at the end? And he says, "Earn this," and it obviously means like have a
earn your life.
Don't ever throw this away, right? Because all these people have sacrificed and had people to go back to as well.
Yeah.
So that you can continue
your life,
right? And then it cuts back to him kind of in tears as the old man saying, "I've never forgot to. I think about what you said to me that day every single day of my life." And then he goes to his wife and his family, because they're wondering why he's crying. He's like, I've been a good man. I've never let anyone down. And Hymn to the Fallen, which is a quite an emotional soundtrack starts playing.
Yeah.
The credits roll, but incredibly powerful film. But both are incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
But I think we could make an exception and call this one a tie.
Yeah, because iRobot is iRobot is a fantastic film. The CGI for the time that it came out as well, phenomenal. Storyline was solid, great actor, and it was great throughout. Like I say, my issue with war films, if you've watched a war film, you've watched all war films.
Of them, yeah.
That's my only issue with them. The only ones that stand out to me if that was like Enemy at the Gates or Behind Enemy Lines, you would have it. But I'm actually.
Are we talking about Behind Enemy Lines with Owen Wilson?
Yeah.
Oh, great film. Anyway, sorry. That's not on the list, though.
I know, that's why I'm like, if it was one of those, I'd actually concede to you. But right now, I'm actually not even willing to accept a tie.
Oh, right. Okay. I guess iRobot's going in at number 4.
Oh, me.
Ooh. We've nearly been going for an hour and 35 minutes. We're
getting there,
people. We've got 3 more to do.
Holy shenanigans.
Okay.
This is a big one from Ryan. This is a big
I feel
hitter.
like you don't even have a film to contest this. The Dark Knight, the middle film in the Batman under Christopher Nolan trilogy, the one with Heath Ledger's Joker.
Right, people, so I'm going to quickly put up my one, which is going to be Cheech and Chong, Up in Smoke, and we're going to concede. We're just going to concede. Because
justice has been served.
Enough said.
Let's just say
Heath Ledger's Joker.
Heath Ledger's Joker is the best bit of acting
so good
of all time.
Absolutely phenomenal. So good that I know a few people who have got the Heath Ledger Joker as a tattoo. These are friends that actually live in our town as well. He was powerful actor. But then again, Christian Bale he was a phenomenal Batman.
Yeah.
An actual phenomenal Batman. He was
especially
really
when
good.
you now know Ben Affleck's Batman.
I don't get me wrong. Ben
really
Affleck done his best. He done his best, but you're not Christian Bale.
I've seen Daredevil, man. That should have been the end of the road for superheroes for him.
Well,
anyway.
he done better in Jane Silent Bob. We'll leave it as that.
For sure. Anyway, but yeah, let's just briefly touch on Heath Ledger's Joker, because it would be insulting if we didn't.
Yeah, great man, great actor.
Basically,
R.I.P.
let's just say he gave his life to this role. I don't think it's he wanted to be taken seriously as an actor.
And that definitely done it for him.
And that definitely done it for him at a cost of he became that character and it got too much for him. And the only sad part about that amazing performance is that he was never around to see the appreciation of the eternal
of his work,
his immortal appearance in that. That will be shown 100 years down the line, so on and so forth. And you know, it's such a shame and it's such a tragedy that he how that situation played out.
Yeah.
But the best single alone acting appearance in a film of all time.
Especially with the films that have came out since then, basing the Joker in them. Like,
and
don't get me wrong,
they came before him, like Jack Nicholson was.
Like, don't get us wrong, they all played a good part. They're all good actors, but Heath Ledger took it to another level.
The unique thing about this Joker is, I think, before this Joker came about, we'd always accustomed the Joker to being quite a charming villain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was always quite funny, and whereas this one really explored the kind of
dark
PTSD, mental ill patient Joker, and I think
the scene when he comes in and he goes, "Do you want to see a magic trick?" And he puts the pencil down and goes, "Well, look at that!
It's God.
It's God." I absolutely loved it. He's so good. So good. So yeah, The Dark Knight, absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, stole the biscuit.
Number 3. Number 2. This is where any of these top 3, right, could have been in any order. Let's just put that out.
Yeah.
But it just got so hard that I just had to.
That's why with my ones, I just had to write down 10 from my list of like 50.
Right. My number 2, Goodfellas.
I'm gonna put up because the one I'm gonna save that one because I know you've not seen it, so I'll save that one for number 1. But this one, Venom, Tom Hardy's Venom.
I watched. It is a good film. I can't wait for the sequel to come out.
It's gonna be carnage.
I'm a big fan of Tom Hardy in general.
Yeah.
Like, we should also probably give him a little shout out for his role as Bane in the Dark Knight Rises.
He's just. Have you seen his performance in Legend when he plays both the brothers?
Cray brothers?
Oh, man, phenomenal positioning. I know a lot of it's to do with the director and whatnot, but I mean, he was phenomenal. Yeah. Absolutely magic actor. But yeah, playing Venom, I loved the comedy aspect. I loved the kind of emotional little dive it made you go down as well, just with him himself hitting rock bottom. Because normally when you hear Eddie Brock, you hear him being just the enemy of Superman. Whilst in this Venom, he's not the enemy of Superman.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Yeah, my bad. Redacted. So yeah, he's not the enemy of Spider-Man because Spider-Man's not in this one as of yet. No. We have heard that they may be making appearances, but until then, he's more due to this Eddie Brock, Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock. He's more of like what's the word? He's not quite a hero. He's more of a Deadpool kind of style, like a vigilante,
like an anti-hero kind of thing.
Yeah, like an anti-hero. Which is quite interesting because to have that kind of trait also leads on to, if you know anything about the symbiotes, there's also one called Anti-Venom, and he is a full-on anti-hero. That's just what he's a good guy, but he kind of goes about it the wrong way, like a Deadpool kind of style again. But for the story of Venom, it's just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I thought the cast was great. I thought the part he played was just so good. Like, there's scenes when he's actually talking with Venom, and like, because Venom can obviously talk to him like telepathically.
Yeah, because the mask, not the mask, but the suit kind of comes off the face.
It comes off because it is a symbiote, because it's not a suit. Like, what you see is that is Venom. Yeah. Well, it's not Venom. That's what Venom puts on to Eddie Brock. But you see them talking, and you can see them as one. Like, there are scenes where that happens, and the CGI is honestly, you're just like. If you were a little kid, you'd be scared because you'd be like, what, the detail and all the little symbiote, little goop parts essentially, and they all move at different times, and the way they join back up, the way you see Venom like eat people, the way Venom talks to people as well. He's like, like something like, I'll rip off your limbs.
Yeah.
So it'd be like a fart in the wind. Just a fart. He's like, what? And he's like talking to Eddie Brock, and he's like, calling him a pussy because he doesn't want to jump off a building. Yeah. He's like, we can jump. He's like, nope, taking the elevator. And Venom's like, pussy. It's just like the little comedy parts that are rammed in, these massive action sequences. They're just so good. And when you see, because there's a scene where Venom also leaves Eddie Brock and goes into his ex-girlfriend, and watching Venom become a female, it was also quite interesting. It's nice to just watch, because they are symbiotes and they do choose to who they want to feed off of. Because Eddie Brock calls them a parasite, because essentially he is, because they feed off the user unless they're fed nutrients, which is obviously what they like to eat as humans. We supply them with enough nutrients to live, but that's why they also like to attach themselves to them. But yeah, a very strong number 2 is that, and you got to give it all to Tom Hardy.
Yeah, man.
Soundtrack is also phenomenal. Thank you, Eminem.
So I'll make a case for Goodfellas, but I feel like I have a couple similar films in here already, so we'll give it a go, but we'll see.
Coming out fighting.
Another book that I read was Wise Guy, which was the life and story of Henry Hill, who is the main character in Goodfellas, played by Ray Liotta. It's probably, out of all of Scorsese's films, it's probably the one that's the most iconic. And there's been a few, right? But it's the one that I think everyone goes back to. So it starts off, and I just want to I think what's impressive about this is Henry Hill was a low-level associate in the mob. He was never someone that was a higher-up or that, but it's still such a compelling and interesting film, even though that's the kind of status that it is.
Yeah.
I think we might have actually, I think we touched on this in the coronavirus episode.
We did, yeah.
With, the moment of, I still get my mind blown that the heist that they do in Goodfellas at the airport, that money has never been recovered. Jimmy Burke or Conway, can't remember. De Niro, I said this in the corona, I remember watching that. This is exactly what I said. De Niro's character in Goodfellas basically bumped everyone off to stop them from talking that was involved in the heist, so the authorities couldn't, crack the case.
Yeah, and he died, didn't he?
One of they managed to keep one alive, right? But as he was testifying, he went to tie his shoe and he had a heart attack. And he
that was the one.
Which is like, of all the luck for the authorities. But yeah, there's some crazy scenes in like the bit where they beat up Billy. Well, they kill Billy Bats basically, but they beat him up in the bar because he says, "Go get your shine box" to Joe Pesci's character, and it shows you like a really brutal side, but just even from the outside of the mob life, because he's not even fully in. He wasn't even a part of the mob because he's
not in the inner circle.
Yeah, I think you have to be. So basically, to be accepted into a family, in one of the crime families, you have to be full blood Italian, right?
Mm. Whereas
Henry Hill and even De Niro's character were Irish descent, I believe. But it's all, it gets to the point of where it has this all kind of glamorization of it, and then this kind of second half of where it starts to go downhill because he starts getting addicted to substances and he starts selling substances, and it starts messing with his mind and getting himself in trouble. And obviously, and one thing that the mob never ever approved of, the maid guys and stuff like that was drug dealing. Nope.
Yeah, he don't do
no go. Which obviously he just pushed ahead with anyway. And there's like surreal moments of when Joe Pesci's character goes to get made, but it turns out it's revenge for Billy Bats, when they kick in the bar and that, and when he turns up, he's expecting all these people around a table and he's going to get made and that, and he sees an empty, and he has that last, like his life flashes before his eyes, like, oh, and then as he's about to say no, boom, shot through the head, and there's a powerful scene when De Niro's on the phone and like he was like, so what happened? And he was like, he had an accident. He's like, what kind of accident? He's like, there's nothing we could have done about it. So basically kind of realizes he's been whacked, and remembered like De Niro's was all for him getting made and that, so he kind of feels guilty about it. He starts whacking the phone and pushing the thing over. It's crazy because there's a bit where like Ray Liotta's Henry Hill, Ray Liotta's character.
I like Ray Liotta.
Is like it cuts back to Tommy because they find out when they've been phoned and that, and it was like it was revenge for Billy Bats and a lot of other things.
Yeah,
and then it's powerful where it just goes. They even shot Tommy in the face so that his mother couldn't give him an open coffin at the funeral. And that's true because I've read the book as well, which is crazy, man.
Yeah,
and at the end, him and his wife decide to go into witness protection, and he gives everyone up. And this is the thing about Henry Hill. The life's, Dob and his friends and all the people that he was friendly with and cared about and that, messing them over or turning them over was never a big deal to him. The hardest part of it was giving up the lifestyle. As we've seen, because I've read the book and I've read stuff after that, and there's a bit at the end of the film where it kind of lists even when he went into witness protection and got everyone put in jail and stuff like that was part of, that he knew. He didn't change. He never stayed out of trouble. He couldn't stay out of trouble. He was addicted to the lifestyle.
That's if you're addicted to that lifestyle, then you don't want to give it up. You're not going to give it up, really, are you?
And it's him it kind of alludes to that in the film. Like he's downbeat. He was like, I've got to have like pasta and asked for marinara sauce, and they gave me a bottle of ketchup, and but like just seeing like because obviously of his little taste of that life, there was all these kind of like deli platters and pastas and all these kind of sauces and all this gourmet food, whereas his status had went down because he went to protection, and then says just a regular guy at the end of it, and the door closes, and I'm trying to remember what the song's called. There's a really good song at the end. I'll have to.
Have to search it.
And then he just couldn't stay out of trouble after that. But it's a really good insight into the not so much fully dived in like stuff like The Godfather and Casino and that, which are great films in their own right. But just that kind of we're talking about corruption of the human mind, right? Of power, and that was kind of what that was, right? Because he was a kid growing up, and then he kind of got into that, and he had like a little taste of what it was like, and it wasn't about the people he was with, which is what they always say it's about. It was about the lifestyle and how he could never get away from that and that. But I guess it's decision time.
So Venom or Goodfellas?
It's a tough one, this.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got a couple films in there already that are similar in Goodfellas, and I know. Apologies, Jamie Reed, who watches this podcast, because I know he's also a big mob movie fan. He's going to kill me when he hears that I've just conceded to Venom. But
I'm sitting here, not being funny. I'm sitting here quite comfy right now. Like
so,
Venom.
Venom goes in at number 2 before the final.
You know, we've got to have some of the new content getting on here as well.
Yeah, for sure. We're keeping it balanced. Plus, I got The Departed in. I was, no negotiating on The Departed, so I've got to give the away. Right.
Good old number 1. Now, I think I am a bit worried about this one because I know how powerful your number 1 film is. And I know also, but in my defense, I also know you haven't seen my number 1 film.
Right, okay.
So, I mean, I'm going to let you...
Oh, no, I have seen this.
Oh, you have seen it?
Rosa Salazar is Alita Battle Angel.
Oh, you have seen it?
Yes, I have seen it.
I wasn't too sure. Well, I was going to kind of leave it until after you explain. But yeah, my defense is Alita Battle Angel. Phenomenal film.
Very, very surprisingly emotional as well.
Very, but especially when you find out some of the backstories as to, even at the very beginning when you find out why she's called Alita.
This is the film with the character that is animated.
Yes. Like her whole body is essentially animated. Well, she's a robot.
Yeah.
But obviously in the film it's animated.
Am I right in thinking she's got one eye again, I think?
No, she's got 2. They're very big though.
Yeah.
You know when you buy like your little pop vinyls and they have these big eyes? It's kind of that effect. Which I actually have 2 of Alita in little pop vinyls because I'm that much of a fan. I honestly, this film stole the biscuit for me. I liked all the characters. I loved the guy in the beginning. I can't remember his name. The doctor. He's gonna drive me nuts. He was in Django as well as the guy who went around
as well.
I know. I don't know what I'm saying that, and I'm like, why is that not on any of our lists?
We had a Quentin Tarantino so much hate one for the ones that we just haven't got in there.
We can only choose 10.
Been going for like almost 2 hours. Anyway.
But yeah, so like Alita, she's found in a scrapyard. Well, the important part of her is found in the scrapyard, which was her basically mini reactor of a heart, which was forgotten technology, as it's explained in the film. I can't remember the faction that she actually came from, but she was based on a berserker, which was a highly futuristic, very powerful fighter. For any war zone, they would get dropped in small amounts of units and basically just wipe everything out. But Alita Battle Angel, the film itself, is also based on the manga that was the original source. So this is why I thought it was very important to get this film in here because we spoke about a lack of anime, and so I'm thinking this is the manga battle right now. Now this film, when it came out, it didn't reach everything that they wanted in box office, but since its release, they have now also decided they are definitely doing the second one. Even though this first one didn't happen in a year, this was a build-up to Alita Battle Angel. And the second one's going to be about another, I would probably say, 3 to 4 years. Because the amount of CGI that goes into it, I mean, the sport that they have in there, the rollerball, or do they call it murder ball? It's one of them anyway, but basically they're all enhanced. Some of them have like chains they can shoot out. Some of them are also built like the Hulk, Some of them are built like almost like skiers, like they have like scythes and shit like that. So they make them really streamlined. They're really, really smooth on what they do. But it's all about trying to kill the opponent. If they can't get the ball and hold on to it, they just try to kill each other on this sport, and it's absolutely crazy. But at this point in the film, when that's happening, Alita's got her berserker body, which she finds in, I can't remember the faction name again, but she finds in one of the spaceships. She goes in, and then the body kind of reacts to her presence, and she's all like, ooh, this, I feel a connection kind of thing. She takes it back to the doctor, and the doctor's like, I'm not putting you in this, because if I put you in this, I'm worried that you're going to change, because this body is meant for killers. But then he's kind of realizing that he can't control Alita. Alita's going to do her own thing. So she goes out and becomes a bounty hunter.
Right.
Because she realizes the doctor's a bounty hunter, and he's like, no, you can't do bounty hunting. So she rebels. She goes in. She becomes a fully fledged bounty hunter. But she gets herself into a situation where she essentially gets all chopped up. So the body that was actually meant for the doctor's own daughter, who sadly died, has now been completely obliterated. Like, she's like missing an arm, missing a leg. So the doctor's left with no choice but to put her in the berserker body. Now, when this berserker body happens, a really amazing bit of CGI happens. It's almost like watching Mystique change. Like, all the as they call them, nanobots that are inside it, it just kind of reads how her brain sending signals to how her body should look. So obviously there's nothing revealing. It's like a suit with clothes on, essentially. But it changes, and that's when they sit there and they realize it's like, oh, she is not a girl.
Yeah,
she is actually a young woman. Like, she I don't know, say based on maybe an early 20-year-old. And obviously things kind of change. She's got this body on, and she's like, oh, this is amazing. She's like putting one finger on the floor, going upside down and doing a flip, and you're just like, this is going to be insane. And now that's when the murder ball happens. She's in there. She's got that body. She's agile. She's just kicking ass. The emotional side is because she kind of forms a little bond with a human. Can't remember his name. Bad stuff happens to him, unfortunately, but he kind of brings that on himself because he was up to no good anyway. But he gets repaired as such. He's managed to be saved as such to now he's actually got a mechanical body himself. But he's still himself. He's still got his own brain and whatnot. It's just, I believe the rest of him's kind of mechanical. And he starts climbing up one of the tubes to one of the is it the floating planets, or the floating plate they call it? Basically, where all the upper class go.
This is the scene that I remember most from the film.
And he's walking up there, and Alita basically tries to get him, tries to save him, and it just doesn't happen.
Decimated.
A ring gets released by the enemy, who's played by Ed Norton.
Oh,
yeah.
Very common theme in this list.
Yeah, Ed Norton, my man. so Ed Norton releases basically a defense for one of these tubes, and it's a ring of just death that gets flung all the way down the tube. Now Alita sees this. I believe she jumps, and she manages to jump high enough, but her partner doesn't. So he's all chopped up, fallen off the side. But the one thing that's also been put out there is that he may not actually be dead, because remember, he's mostly mechanical right now. So although he fell from a height, can he be repaired? We don't know. Are we going to see him again in Alita Battle Angel 2? We don't know. Does it make it worth the while? It does. Does it make this a great film? Damn right. This film was fun. Oh, it was phenomenal. I rented it off of the Xbox store. I bought it on Blu-ray, and if I ever see it on TV, you're damn right I watch it. Because for me, it's that kind of film. Because the character herself, even though it's all CGI, she's got big eyes. Oh, she's beautiful. She's actually a beautiful character. Like, the CGI is so smooth on it. At every interaction with anyone, at any point in that film, it doesn't look jarry. It's all beautiful. A lot of money went into it, and the second one, I really hope, because we all know when you come out with a second one, sometimes your hopes get a bit crushed. I really hope this doesn't happen with Alita. I hope it continues the rocket straight up. There's not even like a steady incline. It's just
share prices are up.
Yeah, it's like, this is happening.
Right, mate.
Oh, your powerful one.
Powerful ending. American History X is a film that I first watched 7 years ago, 2014, and it deals with a lot of serious topics.
Yeah.
Or one in particular. And it's about a story about two brothers that are basically
white supremacists.
Yeah, pretty much. And they're in a bad gang of people that think like that. And it gets to the point where Edward Norton's character takes things too far. Someone tries to steal his car of a different race, and he ends up
stomping his head, stomping him.
Yeah.
Bite the curb!
Yeah, and ends up in prison. Befriends
a gentleman down in the laundry who's not the same ethnicity, doesn't he?
And realizes that
we're all just people.
So this whole ideology that he's been fed is bullshit.
Yeah.
So he comes out, but he realizes that his brother is following the exact same path he was, because he's in the group of people that it happened to him with. There's a guy called Cameron that is basically the head
supremacist.
Yeah. And he's kind of indoctrinated all these young people believe this nonsense and
mind
stuff.
mind wiping them.
And Edward Norton's character goes to a one of these rally things to confront this Cameron guy and to get his brother out. And he ends up beating this Cameron guy up because he kind of realizes he went to jail because of him. Like this guy uses people to have his sick ideology and that out there, and they suffer the consequences. And he finds out all this stuff about him turning on these kids, and they got 10 years or something for something that he should have really served for. So he calls him out on all this and that, and he was like, "Oh, you've went soft and everything, but your brother needs me more than he'll ever need you." And then he beats him up, and then there's a lot of Randy from My Name Is Earl tries to shoot Ed Norton. A lot of stuff happens. There's an English teacher with Danny, who's Edward Norton's younger brother in the film, who gets him to do an essay because he does a paper on a very, very controversial book, which I don't know what the terms and regulations are, so I won't.
Yeah, I know which one you're on about. Yeah.
But he tells him to do a report on his brother, and it's an interesting layout they have it, because as the story's being told, it keeps cutting to him reporting it on his computer, like he's like typing it up and stuff like that. And there's like really, really powerful points in there as well, the strained relationship, and you see how bad it was for Edward Norton's character in terms of how indoctored he was and how this extremity was pushing him. And then obviously his prison experience of where some, in the film it shows that all prisons are kind of gang
affiliated.
Yeah. So he ends up going in with people that are also part of the white supremacy thing.
Yeah.
But then he ends up doing the like you said, the laundry with someone of a different ethnicity to him, and befriends him and realizes the whole kind of hypocrisy and just you
just realize it's all, like I say, they're just people.
Yeah.
No different. We're all just people. That's it.
So he comes out, he gets his brother, he tells his brother what happened in prison and that, and then they both agree to take all this offensive propaganda and that down, this racist propaganda that they have in their room and that, they take it all down, and it's, that's done with now. They're not a part of this. They know that this is wrong in that, and it's
he basically goes through quite a big change, doesn't he?
Like it turns out he blames, like, his hatred of it appears that his blame of his hatred towards people of other ethnicities is from his dad dying, because I believe he gets shot trying to put out a fire or something like that.
It's something like, yeah.
But it actually turns out that his dad held these beliefs as well in another cutscene, and not a cutscene, but like a flashback.
Yeah.
So he ends up taking his little brother to school, and there's like a big kind of intense. There's a scene earlier in the film to give context where the little brother has a bit of a confrontation with a couple other kids of a different race to him, and they it
fight.
Ends like that. And so he goes to school, and you can tell there's something building up, and it's got all this intense music. And I remember the first time watching this, I was like, something's going to happen to Edward Norton. Something's going to happen to Edward Norton, because he was like infamous for his crimes and stuff like that.
You thought it was going to be him going to get his comeuppance.
Yeah, and then
it's his brother.
His brother's in the toilet at the urinal turns around. The guy that he had a bit of confrontation with earlier in the film's there. Gun, bang, bang, bang.
Done.
The amount of shock on my face when this happened, because like the blood splatter and that across the wall is some of the most intense stuff I've ever seen in my life. And then this song Benedictus starts playing. Well, it's an instrumental actually, which is really, really eerie and really powerful and really dramatic. And Edward Norton runs into school. It's all in slow motion. The history teacher is there. The police are there. Edward Norton runs in, and the song, the instrumental peaks. Like this kind of dramatic moment comes in when he sees his brother like lying there, and Edward Norton's in tears and irate, what have I done? Because he realizes that this is partly on him.
Yeah, he kind of set him down that road.
He hadn't been on that road, then Danny, which is his brother's name, it wouldn't have led down that road, and
wouldn't have followed him. Yeah.
That scene, without fail, I can watch it 200 times over. It never fails to give me chills down my spine. It's just some of the most powerful stuff I've ever seen. I actually remember the guy that plays the guy in the laundry was being interviewed, and he was saying that he was doing an autograph signing or something, and someone that used to be in one of these gangs actually came to him and said the film turned my life around, and the guy was actually in tears about it and stuff. So it had a powerful impact on people, and it always. I've never seen something as powerful as that, because the main message behind it is hate gets you nowhere.
Oh, exactly.
If anything, it takes
hate gets more hate.
Yeah, and it takes things away from you. And there's a. I'm going.
You lose yourself in that
I'm
stuff.
going to find this quote quickly. Let me just find it quickly. I'm going to scroll because it was quite a while back. But yeah, it cuts to the end of his brother's report, because he's handed that in to the English teacher, and it basically kind of a summary, and he uses a quote at the end, and it's one of the most. It's still something that I try to keep in line with what I'm thinking all the time, not just to do with the topics that are in said film, but just, because we can tend to turn on each other in times and stuff, but it's just here. Okay, so this is what he says. He takes a quote to end his paper, and the quote says, "We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic chords of memory will swell again when touched, as surely they will by the better angels of our nature." And then the film credits come on, and the intense
Powerful
music.
stuff.
Powerful stuff. And that's why I cannot concede this as my number one film. And I hope you agree with me. I know you like Alita Battle Angel. I liked it too. But this film...
American History X takes a fucking French biscuit. Right, people. So I actually already done a little count. So I kind of felt it was going to be a bit fairer for me to concede that one, because now it's 5 each.
Well, let's read our combined list off from 10 to 1 before we go.
Right, so in 10th position, we had Tropic Thunder. Number 9, Donnie Brasco. Number 8, Fight Club. Number 7, Trainspotting. Number 6, The Departed. Number 5, Interstellar. And number 4, iRobot. Number 3, The Dark Knight. Number 2, Venom. And number 1, American History X.
Boom! 2 hours, 7 minutes it took us to do that list, and I guess we will be wrapping it up here.
Yeah, I didn't think we'd actually be able to. I'm surprised we managed to talk for that long about these films.
We're civil people. We came to decisions, and we
did. We got a top 10 list.
Made some hard decisions.
Yeah.
But feel free in the comments to distree or agree with us, or if you thought any injustices were made there with how we put the films in order or whatnot, and let us know. And yeah, I guess we'll see you for episode 8, because episode 7 after this one's another interview. So we'll be back for episode 8.
I'll be back
in the near future.
See you later, guys, and take care from the NEC.
This podcast is also available on Google Podcasts, Breaker, Pocketcasts, RadioPublic, and Spotify.